the channel. Now, it gives me enormous pleasure to say that today's the day we are going to start making the 10,000 subscriber bowl. Now, I announced a few weeks ago that we're going to be giving another bowl away at 10,000 subscribers. What I didn't expect to be doing is doing it this quite so soon. I thought I had about maybe 2, maybe 3 months before it would come up, but it's been an awful lot quicker. And I'd like to say thank you to everybody who's joined the channel recently, and a special thank you to all those people who have been with me for the last 15 months. It's been an incredible journey, way more exciting and wonderful than I ever hoped it could be. Anyway, before, again, I don't want to start crying, we're going to start talking about the giveaway bowl. Now, this is a piece of Goncalo Alves, which is a beautiful African hardwood. And we're going to do a very special inlay. Most inlays I've done in the past have been round the rim. This one is going to be through the side. And I'm going to be using brass and French chalk. Now, if you're not familiar with this stuff, this is like a natural writing medium that a lot of different trades use it for writing on stone, metals. It'll write on anything, and of course it rubs off easily as well. And this is actually soapstone. Okay, we do know soapstone is very easy to carve, so hopefully my idea will work. Right, the idea that we're going to put together is I'm going to glue. First, I'm going to cut all these in half. Then I'm going to glue them all together in that kind of orientation to build up a nice long strip of them. When I have that, I'm going to sandwich them between the brass to give that kind of effect. And then that is what we're going to sandwich into this board, into this blank. And then we're going to turn it. Will it work? Well, there's one way of finding out, isn't there? Okay, I'll get set up and we shall get started. Okay, I've got all my French chalk pieces all laid out nicely, ready to start gluing. Now, at the moment they're all too long, so I'm going to cut them all in half, or snap them in half, so we can make them go further. Now, I'm not going to use any particularly elegant method for this. I'm just going to drag a knife blade across them, like that. And let's hopefully score them enough to snap them in half. Right, next step is gloves on. I've got a bag full of clamps down here. What I'm going to do is just put a bit of CA glue on one piece, give them a quick rub together, get them lined up as much as I can, and then just clamp them. And then set that to one side to dry. I haven't quite got enough clamps for all of them, but hopefully by the time I get through to the second batch, some of these will start to dry, so they don't need to be clamped any further. Okay, all done. Okay, so I've got lots of little stacks of 2 glued together now. So next bit, I'm going to start gluing some of these stacks together. And I think I'll do 4 at a time, maybe 5. I'm getting better at gluing these now, so I feel a little bit more confident. The trick to letting them not to stick to your workbench is to keep them moving. There you go. Okay, I've got 5 blocks left now just to glue together, and then this is the first part done. Right, I'll clamp these up, and then we're going to come back tomorrow and start preparing the surface so it can be attached to the brass strips we've got. Okay, we've got our soapstone all nicely glued together and it seems to be holding pretty well. But we do have another step to do before we can sandwich it in between the brass strips. If we were to sandwich it right now, then we'd end up with some gaps where the surface isn't quite flat. So that's what we've got to do now. We've got to flatten off both sides, sorry, so we can get it sandwiched with the brass. Now initially I'm just going to use a palm sander going over the surface to get the higher bits off, and then I'm going to sellotape or stick a couple of pieces of sandpaper to the surface of a board and then rub it backwards and forwards to get a nice flat surface. I'm using a face mask for this, obviously. Excellent. I'll just clean that off and then we're ready for sticking, I think. Okay, we've got that cleaned off nicely, and that's going to be sandwiched in between these two brass strips like that, and we're going to secure it with a 2-part epoxy resin glue. Once we've got the whole lot together, I'm going to be sandwiching in between these two plastic coated pieces of wood and then apply pressure until it's dry. I've covered this plastic with, I've covered this wood with plastic because I don't want to inadvertently stick this to the wood, because that would kind of give us a whole load of problems. Right, so it's a 2-part epoxy glue, so we'll mix it thoroughly. By the way, I don't think I've mentioned it, but the brass I'm using is 0.5 millimetre, so 0.5 of a millimetre in thickness. I did initially order some which was 1.2 millimetres, but it just felt too heavy gauge, and I didn't feel comfortable turning it, especially when it's next to delicate soapstone. So this is just 0.5 mil wide. Just make sure the entire surface is covered right to the edges. Good. Place that in the middle. I will have to trim off the edges, but that's fine. I don't mind doing that. Okay, now shall I apply it to that surface or shall I apply it to the brass? I'll apply it to that surface. Should get these positioned correctly before I start applying pressure on the top. Right, I'll get my clamps and I'll clamp that. Right, it's slipping a bit under there, so a slightly different approach may be needed. Right, I think I'll just let it firm up for a little while and then apply pressure. Because the more I squeeze it at the moment, it's going to be like, you know, when you're trying to handle wet soap, it'll just fly out. So I'll leave it as it is. In a little while, then I'll bring these lot together again and clamp it up. Okay, I've taken the clamps off and I've got our nicely sandwiched piece of material. It looks to be okay. There is a tip which I suddenly remembered, which helped everything stop slipping around when you start to clamp it up, and I'll show you that in a second when we go to the next stage. Now what we need to do is take our beautiful bowl blank and decide exactly where we're going to cut this into. Now I've marked a centre. Now what I need to do is to ensure that when we do cut this in, we're not going to be interfering with where we're going to be putting our tenon or recess in. So that's the outer extremities for the tenon or recess. So I want to be clear of that. And possibly a little base. Up there, I think. I'll just go with a couple of millimetres just to be sure. So there, and our width is about 12 millimetres. Right, so now we're going to cut out that little piece. There we go. That was easy. Right, I'll save that for another project at some point, I'm sure. Right, before I can shove this in, I've got a bit of cleaning up to do on the bottom here to get that flat. I think I'll trip off the edges as well, so I'm not going to do that in quite such a dramatic form as before, but I think that's going to look quite nice once we get it set in there. Right, I'll go and clean this up. Okay, we've cut and trimmed our little insert. I've just sanded over the top as well to give it plenty of material to grip against when we glue it. We've got the blank set up, ready to be clamped, and I have my secret ingredient just hidden behind the lathe there, which is going to be used to stop this slipping when we start to apply pressure. Okay, so I'll mix up some more epoxy. I'm going to cover these two surfaces first. Okay, with those two covered now, we can apply this secret ingredient, which is in this little capsule here. And all we want is a few little grains on each end. If you're wondering what this is, it's sodium chloride. Salt, table salt. And just those very, very fine granules are going to stop this slipping. Hopefully stop this slipping. I saw this tip on another channel quite a while ago, and I keep on forgetting it every time I do a glue up. But luckily I've remembered this time. Okay, that's in position. We can apply some pressure. Okay, I can see glue seeping out of the seams, so that's good. All we have to do now is wait. I'll bring you back when we're done. Okay, so we've got our blank all nicely glued up. The next step is to drill a hole for the worm screw, put it on, and then we can get turning. Now, I need to warn you now that I'm about 50% sure that this is going to work. It might even be 40%. It all depends on how these joints hold up. So when I start turning, I'm going to keep well to the side. I'll have a full faceplate on, keep myself as protected as I can be while we get started. Okay, there is a reasonable chance this could fly apart, but we won't know until we actually do it. Jeez. Okay, we're all set up, tail stuck in and locked. I'm just going to move my control panel to this side so I can get to the emergency stop if I need it. Right, I'll put a glove on my left hand because we've got some sharp edges here and some metal, so just to keep myself safe, but I will be keeping my hands well away from these edges. I've sharpened up, as I say, I'm wearing a face mask and a face shield. I think we'll find out fairly earlier on if this is going to let go. So anyway, let's get started. Wish me luck. Okay, so far so good. Right, I'm going to start working up these sides, which is where the danger's going to start to appear, if it's going to happen. Right, I don't like the look of the way that copper, or the brass, sorry, is just bending outwards, because that's going to put undue pressure on this. So I'm just going to get my Dremel tool out and cut this off. It's been snowing, full hooch. Okay, right, I'll carry on. This is a really hard combination of materials, but we are cutting it. Okay. Right, I think I'm going to sharpen up the ball gouge again and carry on with that for a little bit. I'm also going to turn on the extractor. I am wearing a face mask, but I think we can keep the dust out of the air as much as possible. That would be good. This wood's beautiful, by the way. I know I'm concentrating more on the soapstone and the brass, but the wood is gorgeous. All right, we're nowhere anywhere near out the woods yet, so we'll carry on. I'm going to go and sharpen up again. I really hope this stays together. I really do. Okay, it's going very well, better than I expected at this point. But like I say, we're not out the woods yet, but it is, progress is being made. We're still not quite at the top yet, so we'll do that in the next few passes. When I'm coming back in this way, I would normally stand here to turn there, but I'm not going to get anywhere near this side, because if this does let go, like I say, it's either going to go that way or this way. So I'm going to try and do all the turning from well to the side to keep myself safe. Right, another quick sharpen up, I think. Right, okay, so we created the start of a foot for the bowl. So I'm going to take the tailstock away now for a brief moment and put a recess in. Okay, well, so far so good. The next step is sanding. As ever, I'll let you watch a little bit of it, then I'll bring you back at the end. But this shouldn't take too much, I wouldn't think. As sanding goes, that was an absolute joy. I'm just going to use a bit of isopropyl just to clean out the grooves before we put a sealer on. This wood is just absolutely amazing. There's a bit of the, you can see it now, there's kind of grain going across here, which is just absolutely gorgeous. Right, we'll let this dry, we'll put a sealer on, and then we're going to go on with an abrasive paste to bring the surface up even finer. Looking good. Right, it's long enough to dry. So I'm just going to go on with oh, crikey. I'm just going to go on with a cellulose sanding sealer, which we can buff in. And then we'll put a polish on the top. No, we won't. Then we'll use an abrasive paste and then we'll use a polish on the top. I've just heard, by the way, that this isn't going to be the only prize that we're giving away. And I'll tell you a little bit more at the end. I don't usually wear a face shield when I buff in sanding sealer, but I am going to on this occasion. Now on with the, oops. Okay, now on with the abrasive paste. This will bring the surface up to about an equivalent to about 1000 grit. The smoother you get the surface, the better the shine will be at the end. It'll really help to polish the soapstone as well. Face shield down. Again, we'll clean off the residue with isopropyl. Right, let that evaporate again, and we'll put the final finish on. Okay, right, now onto the Hampshire sheen. I'm going to buff this to a nice polish. Okay, let's turn this round. Okay, we've turned back round. This is where the things can start to get even sketchier, because as we take this thickness away, then there'll be less glue holding these pieces in. So should we just put a hole in the centre and call it a tea light? I suppose we've come this far, we may as well finish it. Right, I've sharpened up again. Mask is ready to go on. Face shield will come down. I'll be stood well to the side. I'll turn on the extraction so the dust from the stone has somewhere to go. Yeah, we'll start again. So far so good. It's going to sharpen up again. Okay, sharpen up again. Good progress. Looking nice. Still very scary. Right, I'll go sharpen up again. Approaching the danger zone. Right, mask off. Right, we're approaching the danger zone. We've still got a little way to go on the bottom, thickness wise, but please excuse me if I'm not going to make this a really thin bowl, because I need the depth of wood. I need that surface area to keep this inlay adhered to the surface. If you go too thin, then I'm fairly certain it'll just snap straight off. So I'll start to try and even up this surface. We'll take this down and then we'll probably finish up with a scraper, I think, to even it out completely. And then we can sand, and I'll be so happy to start sanding. Right, one more quick sharpen up. Right, I think our chances of actual success have just gone up a little bit. Right, I'm going to start setting up for sanding. As usual, let you watch the start, but I'll bring you back when it's done. The end is in sight and I am so happy. Right, isopropyl. This is just to clean the grooves, get all the dust out the grain, ready for the sealer. See how that just pulls off. Right, we'll let that evaporate. That's all evaporated, so on with the cellulose sealer. And then on with the True Grit abrasive paste. Give it a nice polished surface, ready for the final wax. Isopropyl again, clean up all the residue. Let that evaporate. And the wax polish to finish off. Okay, let's see what we're giving away. And there we have it. The 10,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. Goncalo Alves, French chalk or soapstone, and brass. Oh, and a little bit of salt. I have never been so pleased to get to an end of a project. I thought the grass treat route was nerve-wracking, but this, as I say, I only gave it a 50-50 chance of actually making it to the end in one piece. And I'm so pleased we got there. It's absolutely beautiful, even though I know I'm saying it myself and I made it, etc. But the contrast between the soapstone, the brass and the wood is just gorgeous. And I'm so pleased and so proud to be able to give it away to one of you lot. Now, as I mentioned a little bit earlier on, this isn't the only prize. The very, very kind people at Record Power have offered a set of bowl gouges, a small bowl gouge kit to go along with this. So we'll be giving two separate prizes. One person will win this and the other person will win the gift from Record Power. I'll put a picture on the screen now of what they're giving away as well, which is incredibly kind of them. I'm so grateful to them. Again, I'm so grateful to Record for all the support they've given me since I've been running this channel. Really nice people. I'm not sponsored by them, but they're always there to help whenever I need it. Right, so how do you win this? Well, if you've left a comment and have subscribed since our last giveaway, then you are going to be automatically entered. Every time you comment will pretty much act as another entry into the competition. The more times you comment, the more entries you will have. And we'll be taking all the comments from after the last giveaway we did, which was just a few weeks ago. I wasn't quite expecting to be doing this quite so soon. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching. I'll put a beauty shot of this in the video at the end, and I will always put shots of this on my Facebook and my Instagram accounts. But apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.